Here's another batch of lilies. They're oriental. This is where I had tulips, which I should probably plant something there here again. Maybe more sunflowers. They're easy, just stick a seed in. I planted geraniums here, not for cut flowers, but for the fact that we have our grapevine and our grape arbor right here. Like I said, geraniums, their smell is supposed to keep Japanese beetles away, and that's what we want. We want to keep those beetles away from any of our stuff. We also have some peonies, perennial phlox, American Legion poppies that were blooming already in the greenhouse. These are about the last things I planted. So I'm hoping that they'll seed off and then I'll have like a poppy patch right here. And then I took some irises, transplanted them there. Our grapevine, we have cable here, and then it kind of will cling on to parts of the vine here and just start growing up. We actually had to train this a good bit, and we're hoping to do more with it, like paint it and make that piece there look a little bit nicer. But every project has its seasons, and sometimes you have to prioritize other things as well. Here we have our blueberries. These were just planted last year and we got them from Johnny's. And we got some berries. You're actually supposed to pick them off so the plant is growing the first year instead of letting berries grow, but I sort of just like having that few little bit of berries. We thought this was a blueberry bush, but it might not be. Here we have one more plant of our Nova Red raspberries, followed by our Jewel black raspberries. Now, I grew up with raspberry picking, and this is usually the wild type that we always went for. But look at the size of some of these. That's just awesome. We have a few blackberry bushes here, but here's my biggest regret with this berry patch. I need a bigger walkway. I can still get through here and everything, but I sort of wish I would have did a row for the blackberries, a row for the black raspberries, a row for the red raspberries, and a row for the yellow raspberries, which is right here. These have more of a citrusy taste. They're called an Ann yellow raspberry. And then we have more of our Nova Red ones down here, which with all of the rain that we got, like right before this, they've really been ripening really quick. So let's go ahead and leave this garden, and we're gonna head over to the second garden, which it is designed similarly to this, but just think about if this is essentially just cut in half right down the middle here. And let's go see what's over there. So this here is supposed to be a row of hydrangeas. This is from my family's farm's old farmhouse, a root of that hydrangea. This one was from my mother-in-law. And then up here, this was mine, but I let my mom have it, and then I took it and planted it right before a heat wave. And it ain't looking the best, but there's still some healthy leaves on there, so we're just gonna let it do its thing this year, and hopefully it'll be healthy by next year. All right, two things with this part of the property. We are growing an apple orchard to begin with, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 apple trees planted. And in the future years, I plan to plant more pear trees, peach trees, but it all has to be for zone 5 or zone 4 even for it to actually grow and produce healthy fruit. And as you can see here, we're building a pole barn to store all of our agriculture equipment, such as our tractor, our other tractor, the mule, the four-wheeler, things like that. The rototiller, the plows. All right, instead of saying holy cow from now on, I'm gonna be saying holy corn. This is all one variety, bloody butcher corn. It's red field corn essentially, and it's actually from Safe Seed. My husband got it from his uncle, but when knee high by the 4th of July, this is about hip high on me. So it's doing awesome. And we planted all of this with a one row seeder. We planted all of this with a row seeder. I just it's hard to get through here because we don't have a walkway. We actually thought this originally, we weren't gonna put a fence over it. Then we had the fence, and so we're like, we'll put this up. All right, this is my trial year of planting strawberries in landscape fabric. I have two varieties. Down here is the Eversweet. They're supposed to be ever-bearing strawberries. I had a lot that actually didn't come up. I think I got them too early and then I planted them too early. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to let the runners grow. So I tried to put a piece of dirt underneath this one here to give it something to root in, and then I'll cut it off and move it when it's time to do so. And some of these it's like a wild strawberry or something that I need to pull out. I don't do all the weeding myself. My husband sort of helps me, but this is the one thing that we didn't do well together. I needed to pull the weeds. He didn't want to spray my flowers, and it just turned into this. So this is probably the worst weeds that we have in all of the garden, and it's gonna have to be something that I get tackled this month, because all of these are about in seeds. This was the first cut flower bed I planted. It was actually back in March, but we have some delphiniums down there, some sweet William. We just have a regular packet, sweet white, and then Amazon pink. It's an Amazon series here. They're supposed to have really tall stems. Next up, we have our first planting of snapdragon. So as you can see, some are in bloom. So these will get picked tomorrow and be sold at the farmer's market on Saturday. If we keep going, up here is perennial yarrow, and what I've been finding out is I just have yarrow everywhere anyways, because it's a perennial here, also a weed. These bachelor buttons have better days, but when they were in bloom, they had these cute shades of blue, as well as these shades of pink, and they have some white, and they were just beautiful. We have some feverfew here, which is in the family related to the daisies, but they are their own plant. This variety is Tetra White. We have some carnations. I was gonna give up on these, but I figured I'll just plant them early. I think these ones I planted in April and just see how they do. And we have one actually in bloom. More snapdragons. This was the second succession of them, and half were pinched. This side was pinched, that side wasn't. So those ones are going to have taller stems than these ones. This is my first year growing larkspur. I absolutely love this. It is beautiful against that yellow lily. And then we have straw flowers, which the coolest thing about these ones is they're like status. They actually sound like paper. Those are my husband's new favorite flowers. He just absolutely loves the sound of them. Here we have some more green gold euphorium, and when other cut flower farmers say they absolutely love this, they're gonna grow tons of it the next year. That is so true. I love that flower. Here I had perennial lupins. I started them indoors, then I forgot about them, and then I started from seed too late. So that's why they're not looking that great, and why I gotta pull some seeds. But look at these Rudbeckia. These are supposed to be a double variety, which I'm not really seeing the double quite, but they're still beautiful. And these are some of my favorite, the Cherokee Sunset. Okay, calendula. I thought I was going to give up on these and never plant them again. I saved the seeds. I'm like, okay, I'll still plant. And they've grown on me. It's just you have to plant them early enough before this heat comes, or else they're not going to do too well. And I literally had about like 7 seeds of Amy left. So I went and go ahead and planted that, and they're doing awesome. Here we have some Clarkia, followed by petunias that I figured I'd give them a shot of being cut flowers. And the stems are long enough to cut them and put them in arrangements. Petunias don't last that long, but it's just, I love petunias. It is so cool to actually put them in a flower arrangement. We have some forget-me-nots here. This is my first year growing these, and they're actually turning out pretty good. We have phlox I have to go ahead and pinch so it grows more snapdragons, and then Dusty Miller and some basil. This part of the second garden here is our heirloom field corn patch. as well as our pumpkin patch. So those pumpkins, they were volunteer pumpkins that were growing up in my front flower bed. So I pulled them out on a rainy day. I moved them over here. We have a supposed to be super large pumpkin. I pulled out some volunteer sunflowers that were acting as weeds, so I filled in the spaces. And then we have these huge pumpkins down here as well. So let's go ahead and get through this cornfield. We're going to work our way over to the rest of the flowers. So this bed gives a better depiction of how I've been planting cool flowers. So I lay down the mulch and then I plant right in it, deep enough so that the roots are in the soil, but it's supposed to keep the weeds down decently. Not necessarily great, but at least decently. So we have snapdragons, we have China asters, which those are warm flowers, but with the heat we've had, I didn't want to plant them in plastic and have them all fry. Eucalyptus, I only have 9 plants of it. Like, that's it. It wasn't a good year for me. And then Lysianthus, I had a bad year last year with them. This is my 2nd year, and I just love what they're doing. More baby's breath, a few Dusty Miller, and then some Orlea. For me, I don't feel like a cut flower farm is a cut flower farm until you have your glads. I would like to leave these in the ground 1 year, but with this being where we're gonna rototill again, they're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to dig them up. We also have our dahlia patch here, which some of them they didn't go, but that's okay. We'll still have plenty of dahlias. This bed here, there's no mulch on it. It just came to the point where I was so tired of planting. It was the end of June, and I'm like, you know what? They're just getting put in the ground, and I'll just have to deal with the weeds. So we have our Leia, we have more Lysianthus. This was kind of like the catch-all down here. We have more that I believe are larkspur. Those are snapdragons, I believe. More Lizzies, more salvia. Ooh. Oh, that's Buplorum. In the last bed, we have some extra zinnias. We have Dusty Millers, we have extra statuses. This was kind of just, we have a bunch of extras, so they're gonna get planted here. We have Mahogany Splendor Hibiscus, and we also have some petunias. These aren't to cut. Growing them here specifically to get seeds off of them because they were like just all so beautiful of flowers, just so different. Like, look at that star shape. So I'm hoping to collect the seeds from those and then have my petunia seeds for next year. I just wanted to add too, when things don't seem like they're managed well or they're not growing like you wanted them to, there's always next year. Just fix it. Plant it in August, September, October, and then just fix it for the following year. So we're here in the front beds and we still need to mulch over here, pull some weeds, but besides these yellow petunias, all of these other petunias were the ones I started from seed. And it kind of sucks that we're gonna have to go back and trim them all, but they always look so much more healthy and so much more in bloom than these store-bought ones that are started from cuttings. Like, look at that purple and look at that pink. Like, I absolutely love it. They don't work well in hanging baskets, but I do buy the Proven Winners petunias for those. That's just one plant, and I know it's not hanging up. It was supposed to rain, so that's why it's in the bed there. We also have tons of Indian Summer Rudbeckia. We just took the seeds, spread them out, and this is what we got. Now, I want to say, if you want to have the easiest garden to plant, here's what you have to do. So you saw maybe some of those volunteer tomatoes we have volunteer sunflowers, these volunteer pumpkins up here. I didn't have time with grad school and work and other projects to actually pick up the pumpkins that were there for decoration last year. They all seeded off. Like, about like every seed inside of them just germinated. So I moved them, and then let me show you what happened afterwards. Well, damn, look at that. Look, I moved all of these away, and the seeds underneath, they just all germinated. So I love volunteer stuff. So it's just gonna grow, and it's gonna grow through our front yard, and we're just gonna love it. That's awesome. So we have more of the petunias, the proven winners in the baskets. And some of those Rebecchias, they're smaller just because they weren't established over the winter time, or they actually started in early spring. So thanks so much for sticking around for this garden tour. When people stop by for a visit, I'm like, you guys have to see my gardens. Like, I love talking about them, showing things, and I would love to see other people's gardens. I literally would. Maybe it's just a gardener's thing. I don't know. It's kind of like farmers where they drive by and look at other farmers' fields. Like, that's the same way with gardening too. So I hope you enjoyed this tour, and I hope to give you an update probably sometime in August when you're gonna see some of the stuff in harvest and some of those weeds super taller. The flowers, they'll be more in bloom. You'll probably see the zinnias, the sunflowers. I feel like it's the end of July and early August that is like the best time for gardening. Like, your weeds are still small, all of the plants are still upright and they're looking good, and then it's like mid-August and you get that mid-August drought and heat, and you're like, oh, like, please, like, let's just get to fall and hunting season, okay? All right, we'll see you in the next video, everyone.